Boys, so I've got you in because I want to talk about the off-season. Here we are, trade period, draft time's coming up as well. And I want to go around and start the discussion, and I want to get everyone in the comments involved as well. So the question is, I'm going to start with Joe, we'll go to Pom, and then we'll go to Jad. I'm going to start with, what do you want to get out of this off-season, whether it be recruits, probably more so the players? Like, what do you actually want to come out of this off-season with, in terms of the list? So, Joe, what are you seeing and what do you want to see?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be talk about Cerra tonight. I'll leave that for then. For me, top of the list. I know our midfield doesn't run as deep as what we'd like, and I think with Stewart coming on board already, that's gonna help us defensively. He's a very, very, very sound defensive player. Cerra, by his own regard, will help in those areas. But for me, top of the list, there's two positions. One's a ruckman, and a ruckman that can, not a third stringer, but someone that's going to push TDK for the number one and push Pito to hold his spot. Like we need, and the one for me is Laddams, stands out for me. He says he's available. He says he's going to be assessing his options. He should be number one on our list, Peter Laddams, to boost our ruck stocks. Secondly, and it's one that probably doesn't get spoken about enough, but there has been a name that's been thrown up, is a wing position. We've got no wingers, got no natural wingers, maybe other than saw flashes from Tom Williamson. Maybe Doc can do it if he can stay fit. Maybe Zach Williams can do it if he can get himself fit. Lockie O'Brien, he's got a great foot and he can play there. But I think we need more depth in the wing position. And Jared Brand has been brought up today from West Coast, who played 83% of his game time on the wing this year, and he'd be a more than handy pickup for us if that's where we're going. So those are the two outside of the Hewitt and Cerras of the world that I'd love to see come across to the club this offseason.
Yeah. Pom?
Yeah, I think Joe's nailed it, really. If you look at what we actually need as a list, I mean, I think we need a project key defender. I'd like Carlton to subscribe to the philosophy of all the top clubs, and that is you prepare for your retirees. So obviously Jones isn't going to be around forever. Looking at the life expectancy of most key defenders, he's probably got about 3 to 4 years max, which is happily the time it takes to groom a good key defender. So for me, I think that's something that we need to look at, whether that's with a plethora of second and third round picks with players that we're trading out. That would be a good thing. Whether it's someone internally gets switched, you just don't know, because McGovern, his name gets carted around all the time, doesn't he, as a key defender, because his brother happens to do it. So who knows what Carlton will do. But I mean, I'd say the priority positions for first 22 are definitely some wide players. Will Lockie O'Brien have a better year with protection? We know that's something that Carl Amon has benefited from in Voss's direct work of giving the wingers protection. So that might be something that Voss says, you know what, the guys we've got can do it. Is that a Doc? Is that a Williamson? Who knows? But I think the Cerra call for me is the one that we need to look at, because Cerra loves playing on the wing, loves rotating on the ball. The top clubs now rotate 5 or 6 players on the ball and on the wide, which we didn't. If you look at Carlton's attendances centre, we have the same 4 all game, where the top clubs, that is really widespread. If you play Supercoach as well, you'll attest to that. Carlton are brilliant for Supercoach because the same blokes will be there all the time. And I do think Joe's right. I'd like to see an older ruckman. Though I'd like to see a 30, 32-year-old come in who can train them as is, because the problem with Cruiser is he can't participate in training full-time. That's his issue. So for me, it's great having him there, but we need a big body there to give these guys a chance to teach these guys. And I'd like to see, the Stephen Martin type role. If there is someone like that, I don't know though, but that's who I like.
Okay. I'm going to play a clip about the ruck stocks that Stephen Silvani talked about today. But before I do that, Jad, what about you? What do you and I have spoken a bit about this, but what do you think we should be doing in the off-season?
Well, firstly, Joe and Pommy have pretty much nailed it positionally. So I guess I'm just looking really at the Cerra deal, and I'd really just want to see Austin, put his flag in the ground and grab his balls and fight for us, because I'm actually, because Austin has a reputation as a great talent for scouting, but when you're a list manager, you've got to be good at negotiation as well. You can't just be a talent manager. So I want to actually see him do something. I don't want to see him cave for Cerra and go pick one plus more and then 750K on top of that, because the other side of that coin is Cerra really the Cerra on top? I meant that, by the way.
Hey.
But I'm looking at Cerra, and if it's 750K, is he really the last sort of big free agent we're going to bring in, for the next 4 years? And is that really what we need? Is that really going to be it for us?
Is it going to be 750? Have they said it's 750? Is that the rumor?
Well, that is the rumor, yeah. But I'm also thinking, if that's what Freo are offering him, why would he leave for less? Does he really want to be home that badly? He's going to take a huge pay cut like that? So
I mean, potentially, right? Potentially, and I mean, I know you're mentioning pick six and not giving up too much and whatnot and negotiating. I'm with you. I mean, the Saar deal last year, I was all over. Pommy on our Bloomer Mill, I went off that we were going to give pick 8 for a halfback flanker because it sets a precedent, and it has. If you're going after a midfielder in Cerra, think about it. He went pick 4 in that draft just after Dow. Has he regressed? Has he regressed from that point, or has he gotten better? Because if he's gotten better and he was a pick 4, how can you wheel and deal out of that to go, no, he's worth less than pick 6? I agree with you, Jad, but I just think we're in too tough a spot where I can't see it not being pick 6 at this point.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. The first thing about the salary, I don't believe it's 750 for 1 second, because that's the first figure I've read in the media. And I usually have this rule of thumb. You always take about 100K off what's reported. But let's just say it's 650 or 600 minimum, 750 at the absolute maximum. Jad, I'm with you. How many more marquee signings can we make? And I guess I'm scarred in giving marquee contracts to guys who are not marquee players just yet, because mentally you work so hard, you get a reward for something that other people have done, but you haven't. And I'm just worried about it happening again. McGovern is one. Williams has only had 1 year. It's very early to call whether it's going to work or not. Daisy Thomas was another one. Pom, you and I spoke the other day about the pick 6, and it is a talking point, because if you're reading the headlines and you're reading the mainstream media, we have no choice. We have to deal in good faith, and we have to give up pick 6 because it's the right thing to do, and because it's the fair thing to do according to.
It's the Australian way.
It's the Australian way. And you and I spoke about, why do we need to give up pick 6? So what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, for me, I think the restricted and the unrestricted rules are the best rules probably in world sport involving trade picks. I think they're phenomenal. But the grey area is this out-of-contract free agent. And this is where it comes wrong. We'll take a snippet here from SEN, right? So they're talking about Adam Cerra here. And they say, Adam Cerra for pick 6 and a future second is the report. Fremantle will not want to drag this out to PSD. They have been informed by all Melbourne clubs, Melbourne Demons and Richmond, that they do not have the draft capital to facilitate a deal. So Fremantle need to drop their asking price and accept pick 6. Now, this is where I draw the line, because the rule is stupid. We don't have to give pick 6. And I'll use this analogy, right? Cerra is worth 6, is worth pick 6. If he was 2 years to go on his contract and we were having a speculative punt, pick 6 is probably about his money, and that's fair enough. But this is like a house, and a house is worth 600,000, and he's gone through a messy divorce and he's got to sell it, right? Are we going to come in and offer 600 when it's dropped on the market to 500K because this guy needs the money? No, you're going to offer 450 and see if he's desperate for the money. And this is the position 3 are in. Now, the media say this, you've got to do it. You've got to do it, because imagine if they lose a prime talent for free. But that's the rule. And until a club has some balls, this rule's always going to be there, where in the facts are facts, November the 1st, this guy is unemployed, and the poor kid is going to have the choice of either retiring, taking a year out, and then he can be picked up anywhere else, or enter the PSD and hope Carlton take him and no one else miraculously finds the salary cap, or 3, worse still, he re-signs with Fremantle. because he's forced to. And I think this is a form of draft manipulation by Fremantle, because when people say, well, Dan, what about if it was Walsh? Well, I'd hope the club's not stupid enough to let Walsh get to this stage. And the rule's there in other sports, like the Bosman rule in football. It's there to make clubs acquire premium talent early, and not take the risk. So for me, he's worth pick 6. But my issue is, and I agree with Joe and Jad, why should that be the starting negotiation? Start low and drag it out. Because if it's true and it looks like all the other clubs have pulled out, they're going to be desperate for it because they're going to lose it for free. So at the moment, let's say it's second round pick, or fuck all. What are you going to take?
True. Jad, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't really disagree on anything there. I will say though, if it is pick 6 at the end of the father sons, it will go to pick 8 most likely.
Yep.
I am happy if it is pick 8 and that's it. I don't want any future swaps of second round picks or third round picks like what would happen with Sard last year, where they just do a bit of window dressing at the end to make it look like, oh, we got more than we gave, or it looks better for Carlton. Just it has to be that first round pick and that's it. There can't be anything else because it's going to affect us in the future. If we start looking like pushovers now, yeah. That's what I'm very mindful of. I'm very mindful of it.
I sense that if we do drag it out, there will be some unrest with fans because we're impatient. And you already saw it with this coaching process. They went through a process and people got irky, like, oh, they're screwing it up. It's not right. We need a coach. We're going to trade period. So are we willing to be patient enough for them to do the hard bargaining? I don't know. Is it maybe just as simple as just a straight swap, Joe, pick 6 or pick 8 for Cerra, and you go home and they get a top 10 pick for an uncontracted player, and we walk away?
I'm with Pommy. I'm with Jad. I'm with both of you. I think we're all of the same mindset on what should happen. The other negotiation in trade period in the AFL seems to have, especially from a Carlton standpoint, seems to have gone out the window in recent years. When you can walk this kid to the preseason draft, offer him, a little bit over what he's worth from a contract standpoint, and get him for nothing from a pick standpoint, why wouldn't you threaten Freo with that? But I just think, we're in the same spot with Sard last year, Pommy. He was out of contract. We could have walked him. We didn't. And we ended up just paying the price. And just to get it done, there's the argument too. Do you want to put the player through that? Is that too stressful on the player? Do you want to show good faith to the player that we're prepared to just get the deal done, get him across, and we believe in him, and we believe in giving up pick 6 for him or pick 8, whatever it becomes, Jad. Just to give that element of good faith to go, yeah, we believe in you, kid. Like, you're coming in, you're going to play a role for us. We're not gambling with the preseason draft. Like, you're worth pick 8 to us. There is that element too where you can give a little bit of confidence to the kid before he comes in. So there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. I just think at the end of the day, as long as you're not giving overs, and I think overs is more than pick 6, like we've said, then fine, just get it done. If this is a player we've targeted, and if he's targeted us as his club of preference, just get it done. Don't fuck around and make it a Papley deal. And don't end up in that situation where he re-signs and whatnot. I don't want that.
Yeah.
You see, I heard this on SEN though, when they said you don't want to drag the player out. Do list managers not have mobile phones anymore? Like, can't they ring Cerra and say, look, it's Nick Austin here, right? We want to give pick 6. We think you are worth pick 6. However, pick 6 could get us X, Y, Z. And then imagine you're playing in the midfield with Cripper and Walsh, and we've got this shiny new player. So stick with us. We still love you. We're still going to pay you, but we're trying to do what's best for the club to give you the best chance of success. So, why can't they do that? I understand being nice, but for me, this rule needs to go, because I think a lot of people complain about the Bosman rule in football, and there was a great article, if you go and see it, on Sky Sports last year, where it's actually increased the longevity of young players. It's actually given young players more opportunity, because teams now are required to get their top-end talent under lock and key earlier, which is meaning that the bottom-end clubs are starting to promote youngsters quicker. So There needs to be a rule in here in the AFL because it's just getting stupid. Every year, Carlton are linked with a player. And like last year, we had that famous conversation with you and me, Joe. And Nick Austin goes out on the 6th of October and says, oh, we're trying to get the deal done. We know it's a case that he doesn't want to be there. So we've got to be respectful of Adam Cerra's mental health. And as soon as you say that, you've got to do the deal. And that was my argument last year. As soon as you've said this is your well-being, you have to do the deal. But in this case, we've got a do-over. Don't be nice. Cerra hasn't said that. He wants out. So let's be bold and strong. And even if you give pick 6 at the end, you give pick 6 at the end. But don't go in hot and say pick 6, because at the moment, the talk is they want 6 and a second for a future third, which is now getting on verge of silly. The house needs to be sold. Why are we offering over?
And just to add to that, guys, like I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the negotiation, because it's all well and good. Commit to the player publicly, like what we're going to do. Commit. Baby, we want you, we love you, let's get you. But when you go into the negotiation, make it clear to Freo that, hey, this is your player. He is your player. It is on you to get the deal done, because at the end of the day, all we're going to lose if we don't get him is a player, and he's not a superstar. They risk losing him for nothing, so the onus is on them to get the deal done. That's how I look at it, and it frustrates me when I look in the media and it's all, oh, Carlton have to do this, Carlton must do this. Like it's just beyond ridiculous, the hypocrisy we're dealt in this space. It's on them. Yeah. He's their player. Yeah. He's not our player.
Yeah, Pom, you've had a look at the draft. Who would be available roughly with pick? It's going to be pick 8, we'll call it, with all the father-sons. Is that basically what it is? We've got to make a decision. Okay, will the player that we would have taken at pick 8 be better than what Cerra is now?
Well, I mean, no, to answer your question now, Cerra is an established AFL football talent. There's no getting away from it. So whenever you pick up anyone in the draft, unless they're like Sam Walsh, you're always taking a punt. You're always taking a punt that they can replicate this in the bigger leagues. But I would say that there is players that Carlton would have a sniff at. You've got players like Goaty. You've got players like Rochelle, my boy, Gibcus, if you thought of a tall defender. There's Matty Roberts there, Josh Sin. There's Ben Hobbs, who slid down most people's draft boards. There's a few top-end talents that Carlton could say, well, you know what, hang about. I fancy ourselves here. I fancy ourselves to develop these players. But at the end of the day, I will say this. Carlton pick 6 is the kind of bold strategy. So if Carlton give pick 6 and a future second, that's the ballsy decision that someone has said, this guy is the difference maker in this structure to win a flag. And that's the kind of thing that wins you flags. Them big ballsy decisions where you say, you know what, I back it in. So I will say there's a caveat. Would I give pick 6 for Adam Cerra? On principle that the guy is out of contract in a month's time, would I fuck? But that's because I'm a tight pom. I don't like buying my wife a beer, right? So, but in reality, right? Sorry, babe, if you're watching this, I love doing it. But in reality, if that is the decision that Nick Austin and the management team come up with, that they think he is the missing piece, he's worth pick 6. He's one of them things that you just won't know. If we win a flag in 2023 and Cerra wins best on ground, pick 6 is the best decision ever. However, I would just say my argument is this. Yes, he's worth pick 6. Adam Cerra, as a footballer, pick 6 all day long. I would do it all day long. But in this situation when he's out of contract, no, I wouldn't. Because he's not. He's not. And I'm telling you now, he ain't going anywhere else. The other clubs have come out and said this is why Carlton is the preferred choice. It is a mission for them to get the deal done under their salary and their capital. So for me, we're holding the cards. We're holding the ace cards.
Okay. I'm going to play one more clip because this will tie into that ruck discussion we were talking about earlier, Joe. This is from Trade Radio today. And Stephen Silvani spoke about the ruck position at Carlton. So have a listen to this.
Look, I think Pitnet's first year at the club, he played really, really well. I didn't think the year that just has just gone, I think he fell away a little bit. Tom De Conning, I think, will be the number one ruckman at that football club. Now, whether that will be next year or not, I'm unsure. But I think long-term, De Conning will be the number one ruckman at that club. Having said that, you still need someone to be able to give him a chop out. I still think Harry Mackay needs to go into the ruck for 3-4 minutes a quarter to allow De Conning to go have a rest or some type of rotation. But to have to play two ruckmen, I guess you saw it on the weekend with Melbourne. They had
Gawn and Jackson.
Jackson.
Works perfectly because Gawn does well forward.
Exactly right. So, and I think De Conning can play forward, and he can play in the ruck, obviously. And Harry needs to be able to do that just for a pinch, 3-4 minutes a quarter, go into the ruck, and then you get some flexibility in terms of what you can do, particularly with hopefully Charlie back in the team as well.
I would have thought it would be great for Harry to put up his, give me 5 minutes, give me 8 minutes in the ruck a quarter, because you need to get away from these key defenders.
Well, the thing about Harry as well, he's agile and he's got real speed and you can get some touch and you can find some easy ball around the ground. So, but anyway, we'll see what happens there.
All right. Before I get you to start off, Joe, Blackerad has bought a beer for Mrs. Pom. Don Carlos has bought another one, so she's well looked after.
Tell you what, that was a money-making exercise, wasn't it? Talk about his round buying habits.
Very nice. Joe, I saw your hands on your head. What did you think of that?
Would you say play Buddy Franklin in the ruck for 4 minutes a quarter? Like, fuck me, this guy just won a Coleman medal, man. What am I listening to? No, wrong, completely wrong. You don't take a Ferrari that's just purring in the goal square and turn him into a forward focus in the ruck. That you don't do that. If it's in the forward 50 and he can chop out there at a throw-in or a ball up, fine, because he's useless if it's deep inside the forward pocket for the most part. But no, not around the ground. I don't want to hear that ever again. That's a waste of time. That is a waste of time.
Okay. Jad?
No, look, I'm with Joe. I just love his reaction.
That's the first time. I don't know, sorry, Chad. That's the first time I've heard it. So that's why that was a genuine for me to hear that. That was terrible.
Mate, the trade radio stuff. I don't know. Sauce I think he just feels like he has to say something. I don't know. Just some of the things he says, just weird. Anyway.
Pom, what did you think?
I think Sauce has had 2 nights in the snow with Petrarca based on that. But I mean, he's what I didn't understand was his simile saying Jackson and Gawn do it, but Jackson and Gawn are both bona fide ruckmen. Jackson was predominantly a ruck in juniors, and then now he's using his forward craft to oscillate back because Gawn's pretty good. So, like, if he'd said the argument of playing TDK and Peternet and saying TDK is a bit like Jackson, spent a bit of time forward as a kid, was a ruckman, and you shift like that, I would have been all for it. But I agree with Joe. Like, for me, yeah, Harry, I want him out full forward. You look at Melbourne, it works because Ben Brown lives in the forward line, so they can chop and change people because they've always got their main pillar there. I'm not a big fan of that, but I mean, Sauce is getting paid to be on trade radio for Bants, evidently.
Yeah, that's a good point, Paul. That's good. I just saw a comment as well. Sorry, that he'd be better than J-Sauce in the ruck. I disagree. J-Sauce's follow-up work as a fourth midfielder at a centre bounce was second to none at times this year. You won't say that from Harry, and he's got no ruck craft. Like, just because he's tall doesn't mean he's going to know how to tap it. He's not going to turn into the greatest tap ruckman of all time because he's got Walsh and Cripps at his feet. That's a craft. Like, that's a serious craft for a ruckman. So I disagree. I would rather see J-Sauce spend all season there as a fourth midfielder for us.
Well, this is where the Ladams situation becomes interesting because I feel like Tom could potentially be the Levi Casbolt role more than what he is a Matthew Cruiser type role, sole ruckman all game. I haven't really thought about it until recently, and that's where a Peter Ladhams would be interesting for us, I think. Anyway, and I just think you need 3 ruckmen on a list by virtue of it. Just I feel like it gives you enough insurance if something goes wrong. You need 3 guys on your list that can play if needed.
Where does it leave Mitch McGovern?
Well, this is the other part, because is Michael Voss going to have the philosophy of David Teague with 3 tall forwards and Jack Silvani and a resting ruckman? And that is very much the key here. We really don't know how are we going to set up. Jad, are you looking to change that setup, or do you want to keep the 3 tall forward system?
No, absolutely, mate. I think it should have been gone a year ago. I think it's very evident in the modern game. It's never going to work. Modern trends dictate it won't work. It just doesn't work. So that's one of the things that's driving me crazy. We just got to move on. Seriously, we've got Harry, we've got Charlie. Fingers crossed he stays fit. We've got a nice little brigade of smalls coming through. We've got the powerful half forward in Honey. I think we need to just scrap it. That 3 tall system is a product of a bygone era now. That's Bolton. That's Teague. That's what we thought we were building. And it's okay to pivot. I mean, it doesn't mean we've failed yet. It's just that you got to make those changes. You got to be brave. And I just don't think it has a place in the modern game. And I highly doubt Vossi, coming from Port, is going to want to play it.
Pom?
You know I've never liked the 3 tall setup. I'm not a fan of it. And it would be awesome if we were trying to chase a 20-point deficit with 5 minutes to go in a basketball game. But in reality, you look at the teams are progressively... You look at the Melbourne, you look at the Doggies this weekend, their smalls are so impactful. That is where your bread and butter is. That's where the top teams kill sides. Richmond 2017. And you look at Richmond 2017, for example, they had 1 tall forward and then just some guy that happened to be a bit tall who could just walk about anywhere. Like, I'm not a fan, and I love McGovern. I've got a love-hate relationship with Mitch McGovern. He's like my big brother. I want to knock him out all the time, but I do like him. But yeah, I think that's trade bait. You know, there's a lot of clubs looking for a tall, and hopefully they think like a lot of people, and they think might do how we recruited him. They think they're getting the other McGovern. So hopefully, like Gold Coast, we can say we've got McGovern, and they'll go, "What, the centre half back?" And we're like, "Yeah. Give us a first."
Yeah. No, that's really good. I've really enjoyed that. We're going to move on because we've got a few more topics to discuss. But Pom and Jad, thanks a lot for coming on, and we'll see you next week.
Pleasure, boys. Joe, pleasure. First time with you.
Thanks, lads. Good to talk to you. Pommy, Bloomer Mill, let's go.
Let's do it. Bloomer Mill, let's dissect this banter from Sauce.